Welcome back to American Ground Radio. Stephen Paul with Louis Saar Avalone.
And you really can't talk about what makes America great without talking about prayer. Because our country has always needed prayer. You may not have needed it, but our country has. It still does. It's right there in the Declaration of Independence. It's hiding in plain sight.
Our founding fathers talked about prayer a lot. Benjamin Franklin said that it was impossible in his mind that a country could rise without God's notice.
No, and our Declaration of Independence, it indicates that those rights that are endowed to us by our Creator.
That's exactly right.
Those unalienable rights.
That's exactly right. And that's why I think our next guest here, this is an interview we did last year with Admiral Barry Black. He's the chaplain for the U.S. Congress. And
which may be surprising to some people that they have a chaplain.
Well, right, because people talk about, the separation of church and state, and yet you've got a chaplain for the House of Representatives and for the Senate. Can we really be that separate and still expect to be great?
America!
And joining us now on the phone, Admiral Barry Black, the 62nd chaplain of the United States Senate. He spent 27 years in the United States Navy, has a doctorate of ministry and a doctorate of philosophy. If there's something troubling you, I'm pretty convinced Chaplain Black can help you out. Welcome to American Ground Radio's 4th of July special.
It's my honor to be here with you.
So how did you get involved in the ministry? A lot of folks are confused by someone goes into the military and goes into the ministry. They see those as different things. How did you feel that calling? How did you get involved, and how has it shaped you?
Well, my mother was baptized into the Christian faith when she was pregnant with me, and she prayed as she was immersed in the baptismal pool that the Holy Spirit would bless her unborn child.
Wow.
I have always wanted to pursue the ministry. I loved young people, and in an effort to minister to young people, I explored my options, and I discovered the military chaplaincy. I had already pastored 11 civilian churches. I was still in my 20s.
Wow.
And I entered the military chaplaincy in order to be able to be the spiritual fitness coach for young people. So that's how I ended up becoming a chaplain in the United States Navy.
Wow.
And now you're the chaplain for the U.S. Senate. You've been serving your country for essentially your most of your adult life. What is it that you think makes America great?
Well, first of all, let me just define greatness. And to me, greatness is possessing abilities and qualities considerably above the normal or average. And I think that America's origins make it great. I mean, my God, look at the Declaration of Independence, which basically says the rights we have are not so much derived from nor conferred by the state as they are God-given. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all people are created equal and that they are endowed by a creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It's an amazing experiment, and so many people in the world envy this country because of its amazing constitution, because of the socio-political documents that frame it. So America is just an amazing nation. The inscription on our Statue of Liberty shows the greatness of this nation. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. So this is the expansive magnanimity and generosity that this nation is intended to have, and that, to me, is a critical part of its greatness.
Oh, Chaplain, that is so well said, so absolutely
It's beautiful.
Inspirational. Obviously, you love this country. When did you realize there was something special about this country? When did you first realize that? Do you remember that moment?
Well, I think a lot of times you remember looking back. Hindsight is 20/20. Someone said. So it's in retrospection that you often remember. But I grew up probably going to church at least 4 times a week. Every time the church door opened,
Wow.
my mother had my 7 siblings and me in worship. And looking back, particularly after preaching on every continent, including Antarctica, and preaching in places where the freedom to worship was not available. I preached in the former Yugoslavia in house churches, and the people were just so grateful to have a sermon that they would. It was one of the few places where I preached a 20-minute sermon, and the people said, "You've got to preach another one." They say we can sing and we can pray all the time, but this is an opportunity to have a preacher and to worship this way. So the very fact that growing up, my family and I had the freedom to worship according to the dictates of our consciences. Wow. What an amazing place. And I think we take that for granted. The freedom to assemble, that we have. It's an amazing freedom. I went to school in Alabama, and I participated in peaceful protests because this great nation permits you to do that. It permits you to speak and to engage in nonviolent direct action, as Martin Luther King Jr. called it. So just looking back over my life at the opportunities available to me in this nation, where I retired a 2-star admiral. I am now the chaplain for the upper chamber of our legislative branch. But had I been born in another nation, there could have been a caste system that would have permanently eliminated those kinds of opportunities for me. That is the greatness of our nation, that someone with very little possibilities in terms of inheritance at birth can, with effort and with prayer and with the unfolding of a powerful providence, end up surprising a lot of people, including himself.
Admiral Barry Black, we've been doing this show for 4 years. I got to say, this is my favorite interview
my goodness.
ever. I feel blessed by this. Thank you so much for taking your time out on this 4th of July to talk with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stephen and Lewis, and stay free.